Long Beach, California, December 4th, 1971. Saturday evening, 7:15. The arena is emptying the way large arenas empty after long days. Slowly, in clusters, people moving toward exits with the particular tiredness that comes not from physical effort, but from hours of sustained attention. 3,000 people have been here since morning. They watched preliminary rounds and quarterfinals and semifinals and finals across multiple weight divisions, multiple styles, multiple hours of competition that required them to pay attention to fast things happening in small spaces. They are satisfied, but they are tired, and now they are going home. And the conversations they are having in the corridors and the parking lot are the conversations that will become the stories they tell on Monday. Did you see the middleweight final? Did you see that combination in the third round? Did you see what happened in the quarterfinal when the kid from New York went up against the instructor from Pasadena? They are taking the event with them. That is what a good event does. It travels home in the people who attended it. But the arena is not entirely finished yet. Behind the main competition floor, past the equipment staging area and down a corridor that smells like industrial cleaner and old concrete, a conference room has been set up with the efficiency of people who have done this before and know exactly what is required. A long table at the front of the room, microphones positioned along it, a pitcher of water and glasses that nobody will drink from, chairs arranged in neat rows facing the table, 50 of them and 50 journalists filling them, some from the sports sections of Los Angeles and Long Beach papers, some from martial arts publications that cover this world specifically and seriously, some from smaller regional papers that sent a stringer because the International Karate Championships is a legitimate story, and legitimate stories deserve coverage. Notebooks are open, cameras are positioned. The room has the focused professional energy of people who have a job to do and a deadline attached to it. Ed Parker sits at the center of the table. He is the reason this tournament exists. Kenpo Karate Grandmaster, the man who began the International Karate Championships years ago when the idea of a large-scale American martial arts tournament was not yet an obvious thing, when he had to argue for its legitimacy to people who were not sure karate belonged in the same conversation as boxing or wrestling or the sports that already had infrastructure and audiences and institutional recognition. He built it anyway. He built it with the particular stubbornness of someone who is certain they are right about something before the evidence has fully assembled itself. The evidence has now assembled itself. 3,000 people attended today. Journalists are sitting in rows waiting to write about it. He was right. He sits with the comfortable authority of a man on his own ground, moderating with the practiced ease of someone who has run enough of these to know what questions are coming before they are asked. To his left, at the end of the table, sits Jim Kelly, 24 years old, 6 feet tall, 185 pounds. He is still wearing his gi, white fabric, clean despite the day's competition, the black belt tied at his waist with the precise knot of someone who has tied it thousands of times and does it correctly without thinking about it. Around his neck hangs his gold medal, middleweight division champion. The weight of it is not heavy in the physical sense, but it carries something, the way earned things carry something that unearned things do not. His hair is natural, full, the kind of presence that in 1971 is still a statement as much as a style. His smile is the smile of someone who has been confident for long enough that it has stopped requiring effort. It is simply how his face arranges itself when things are going well, which today they are, which today they very much are. He won every match, not narrowly, not in the careful, points-managed way of a competitor who is protecting a lead and fighting not to lose. He won with the particular dominance that makes scoring almost secondary, the kind of performance where the judges are recording points, but everyone in the building understands that the points are just the official language for something that was already clear. Fast strikes, clean technique, footwork that created angles his opponents had not prepared for and could not adequately adjust to within the time a match allows. He is 24, and he is the middleweight champion of the biggest karate tournament in America, and he is sitting in a room with 50 journalists and he is completely at ease. Ed Parker surveys the room, adjusts his microphone slightly. Gentlemen, we'll take questions for our champion. Please identify yourself before speaking. A hand goes up immediately. First row, left side. A journalist from the Los Angeles Times, older, experienced, the kind of reporter who has covered enough sporting events that the specific sport is almost secondary to the story underneath it, which is always about people and what they do under pressure and what it means. Tom Bradley, Los Angeles Times. Mr. Kelly, you won every match today without what most people would call a close call. In your own assessment, what separated you from the competition? Jim Kelly leans slightly toward his microphone. He does not rush to answer. There is something in the pause that is not uncertainty. It is the pause of someone who has the answer and is deciding how much of it to give. Honestly, speed. Not just hand speed. That's what people focus on because it's what they can see. But decision speed. The time between reading what your opponent is about to do and responding to it. Most of the guys I fought today were skilled. Good technique, good training, real competitors. But there was always a half-second gap between when they committed to something and when they could adjust if it didn't work. I was living in that gap all day. He says it without arrogance, just accurately, the way a craftsman describes their work. Another hand. A journalist from Black Belt magazine, younger, more specifically knowledgeable, the kind of writer who covers this world because he trains in it and understands the technical vocabulary. Richard Nakamura, Black Belt magazine. You've been training in a system that combines elements from multiple styles. Can you talk about how that approach played out today against competitors who are more strictly traditional? Jim nods. This is a question he has thought about. The traditional systems are serious. I want to be clear about that because sometimes when people talk about combining styles, it sounds like they're dismissing what came before. I'm not. The foundation I have comes from traditional training. The discipline, the structure, the basic technical vocabulary. All of that came from traditional training, and it matters. He pauses. But the reality of competition is that once you're in front of somebody, the situation is moving. It's not a kata. It's not a controlled drill. It's two people trying to solve the same problem from opposite sides simultaneously. And if your training has only prepared you for situations your style anticipated, you're going to run into situations your style didn't anticipate. I wanted to have more answers available. A journalist from a Long Beach paper raises his hand. Ed Parker points to him. Steve Carver, Long Beach Press-Telegram. You're one of very few black champions at this level in American karate. Do you feel that carries additional weight? Additional responsibility? The room shifts slightly, not dramatically. These are professional journalists. They maintain their composure. But the question lands in a different place than the previous questions, and everyone in the room knows it. Jim Kelly does not shift. He was ready for this question the way he is ready for attacks in competition, not because he knew exactly when it was coming, but because he has been living in the territory it comes from for his entire life. Yes, he says simply. And then he lets that sit for a moment before continuing, because the yes is complete on its own and deserves its own space. There are young black kids who are going to read about today in the paper tomorrow, or they're going to hear about it. And some of them are training, and some of them are thinking about training, and some of them have never considered it because they've never seen someone who looks like them standing where I'm standing tonight. He looks directly at the journalist who asked the question. What I do in this GI, on that floor, in front of those judges, that's not just about me. It never has been. I understood that before I walked in here this morning, and I understand it now. Winning feels good. Winning when it means something to people who weren't in the room, that's a different thing entirely. The room is quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that follows something that was said exactly right. Ed Parker, who has been moderating with practiced neutrality, allows the quiet its full duration before gesturing to the next hand. Mike Davis, Associated Press. Mr. Kelly, there's been growing interest from Hollywood in martial arts. Bruce Lee's work is getting attention. Do you see competitive karate eventually crossing over into mainstream entertainment? And would you personally be interested in that? Jim Kelly smiles. A different smile than the confident smile. Something more specific, more private. Like a person who has information they are not yet ready to fully share. Bruce is doing something important, he says. What he's doing on screen is showing audiences something real about what martial arts actually is, not the choreographed movie fighting that people grew up watching, but real speed, real power, real principles. That matters. It changes how people understand this. He leans back slightly. As for whether I personally would be interested, I'll say this. I didn't get into karate to be in movies. I got into karate because I wanted to be excellent at something that was genuinely difficult. The excellence came first. Everything else is a consequence of the excellence. He pauses. But I'm not opposed to consequences. A few people in the room laugh. The tension that the previous question left, the serious, important tension, releases slightly, and the room breathes. A journalist in the third row raises his hand. He is from a smaller publication, a regional martial arts newsletter, and he asks his question with the directness of someone who does not have to worry about how the question will read in a major paper. Mr. Kelly, you talk about reading opponents, about decision speed, about having more answers available. That sounds almost philosophical for a Saturday tournament. Where does that thinking come from? Who influenced it? Jim Kelly is quiet for a moment. A genuine quiet, not a performed one. My first instructor, he says. He told me something the first week I trained with him that I have never stopped thinking about. He said, the goal is not to be the best fighter in the room. The goal is to be the person in the room who understands fighting most completely. He said, those are different goals. They require different work, and only one of them gets better as you get older. He looks at his hands for a moment. The hands that have been throwing strikes since early this morning. I have been trying to pursue the second goal. Today was evidence that the second goal also produces good results on the scoreboard. But the scoreboard is not the point. The scoreboard is just how you know you're on the right track. Another journalist. This one with a camera around his neck in addition to a notebook. The dual-purpose efficiency of someone covering an event that needs both words and pictures. The tournament has grown significantly in the last few years. More competitors, more spectators, higher level of competition. In your view, what does American karate need to do to reach the next level? What is it still missing? Ed Parker's ears come up slightly at this. It is the kind of organizational question that touches his territory, but he lets Jim take it. He is curious what the answer will be. Standardization, Jim Kelly says, without hesitation. Right now, every tournament has slightly different rules, slightly different judging criteria, slightly different definitions of what constitutes a clean point. What that means in practice is that a fighter who wins here tonight might go to a tournament in Chicago next month and find that the standards are different. His strengths may or may not align with what the judges there are looking for. He taps the table lightly. If you want American karate to be taken seriously as a sport, the way boxing is taken seriously, the way wrestling is taken seriously, you need consistency. You need fans to be able to watch an event and understand what they're seeing, to have a framework for what is good and what is excellent and what is a clean point versus a disputed one. Right now, we don't fully have that. The best tournaments are close, but close is not there. Ed Parker, who has been listening, nods once, slightly. The nod of someone who agrees with something he has been saying himself for years and is pleased to hear it said clearly by someone else. A journalist from the back row raises his hand. He has been quiet through the whole press conference, listening, taking notes, not rushing to ask. His question, when it comes, is quieter than the others, more considered. Mr. Kelly, you're 24. You're the middleweight champion of the biggest tournament in America. By every external measure, you have arrived. You're where most competitors in this building dream of being. My question is, what's next? Not career-wise, not competition-wise. Personally, what does the person inside the champion want next? The room goes quiet in a particular way. It is an unusual question for a press conference. It is the kind of question that belongs in a different kind of conversation. A longer one, a more private one, the kind that happens over dinner rather than in a room with 50 journalists and microphones. Jim Kelly looks at the journalist for a moment. Then he looks at the gold medal still hanging around his neck. Then he looks back up. To deserve it, he says. Every day. Not today. I think I deserved it today. I earned it today. I have no doubt about today. But next week, and next month, and next year, the medal is a record of what happened in this building on this day. It doesn't say anything about tomorrow. He pauses. The guys who stay great are the ones who treat winning like a beginning. The ones who think it's an ending, who think arriving means you can stop the work. They fade. And they always seem surprised when they fade, which tells you they were thinking about it wrong from the start. He straightens slightly in his chair. I'm not going to be surprised. Ed Parker looks at his watch. He thanks the journalists professionally, efficiently, with the warmth of a man who genuinely appreciates that they came, and the efficiency of a man who has other things to attend to. Chairs begin to scrape back. Notebooks close. Cameras are recapped. The journalists move toward the door in the unhurried flow of people who have what they came for and are now organizing it in their minds on the way to wherever they write. Jim Kelly remains at the table for a moment after most of the room has cleared. He picks up the gold medal from where it rests against his GI, turns it over once, looks at the back of it, which nobody ever photographs, which has nothing engraved on it, which is just metal, plain, undecorated, the underside of the thing. He sets it back down against his chest, stands up, tucks his chair in, and walks out through the door into the corridor, past the equipment staging area, back toward the arena floor where 3,000 people were watching a few hours ago, and where now the cleaning crew is working in the particular quiet of a large space after a large event, folding chairs and collecting programs and restoring the building to its neutral state, the state it holds between events, waiting for the next thing that will fill it. Jim Kelly walks through it without stopping. He has an early flight in the morning, and training starts Monday.